Welcome to the Unwanted Mind. This is Dolby.
And this is Diogenes.
So basically, this podcast we will discuss several different topics, just through a philosophical lens. Is the idea behind this podcast. So the topic of today's conversation is living forever. Do you really want to live forever? As the famous song by Alphaville goes. Um,
Or would you? Because it's
would
not
you?
very
Yeah.
um, under different conditions.
Yeah. So I'll actually start with a brief anecdote. I remember, I'm not sure if you remember the first time. I still remember, if I'm not mistaken, I still remember the day I learned that I would die. It came as a great shock to me. I think I was
Didn't.
about 4.5 years
Yeah,
old. You remember the story? I think I told you the story.
I might have. I forgot. Yeah. Uh,
Um, it was it was the horror. I was about 4.5 years old, and there was a photograph my mom had of her mom. And I was like, who's this person? Because I had never met her. She passed away shortly after I was born. So my first trip to India was for her funeral. That trip I don't remember. I was less than a year old. Um, and yeah, this picture I'd seen multiple times. Like, I'm like, who is this person? And she's like, oh yeah, that's my mom. You know, she passed away just before we were born, and so I really loved, my mom, and really sad that she couldn't be here. And she talked about all this, and it's like, oh, okay, like what happened? It was a heart attack, this one. And she's like, I think somehow she offhand mentioned like, yeah, she just wish she was there for longer. Everyone dies or something. I was like, wait, what do you mean? Like everyone dies? What? Um, I was like, if you don't get a heart attack, you can still die. If you don't get like, you don't get hit by a bus, you can still die. And like, no matter what you do, you somehow die. And it's like, yeah, everyone died. And I was like really? Like, is there anything you can do to prevent that? Like, what if I eat more healthy? Like, what if I don't eat all this junk food, all that, I live for longer? And I don't know if
not good.
there was like ghee they talk about. They put like in Indian food. I don't know, sure
Mm.
if people know what ghee is, but it's like overheated butter turns into a different form. So I remember I used to love putting that on my food, so I stopped eating that. I was like, okay, wait, so if I'm very healthy, I can live 100 years. So if I'm even more healthy, can I do 200? Can I push 200? Like, how's the longest you can? And I was so obsessed with it. And ever since I was a kid, I was always obsessed with health and longevity. It was something that has always plagued me. Um, they say that humans are the only species that know they will die. Not sure how they exactly test this. I think we can safely say most animals don't have knowledge in the same way that we have. I think there's a
Um,
difference between some of the more higher, like
yeah.
greater apes and some birds and dolphins. So it's not, but I think like for example, dogs, they have. I don't think they know that they know. They don't have this sort of. But but even yeah, with the greater, I'm not sure how. I wonder maybe they know, but I would still also doubt that they have this idea that until like I'm sure. I think they say many animals know that their end is near, right? They say they have kind of come to pieces. They seem to have an idea that it's coming to an end. But I don't think like when they're in their youth they know that, oh, like one day this will all come to an end, no matter what I do. I don't think they quite have that, and um, it's something that really makes up many volumes of philosophy, existential philosophy, great works of literature. Um, so much of our lives is sort of centered around this idea of about the fact that we're going to die someday, and it's something that to every person I think is pretty unfathomable. We don't remember not existing, and to imagine not existing is something that is a bit out of reach, right? And um, so very naturally, I think I would have thought that everyone felt the same way, and if we were given the great opportunity to avoid this curse of not existing, we would all everyone would be willing to take it in a heartbeat. But to my surprise, with many conversations with people, I learned that that's not the case. So yeah, the question is, would you like to live forever? So pose that to you, Diogenes. What do you think?
To me, um, as long as I could check out, if I could live forever under the condition that I could check out, if things got really bad, if I somehow became like really incapacitated, um, then then yes, I would absolutely, on condition that I had that ability, that I had that choice. Yes, absolutely. It's an easy decision for me. I'm very upset by mortality, like you. Um, I don't believe there's a life after death, as possibly the majority of humans do or profess to.
For us
And
to.
indeed, well, it. I mean, it's a belief we classically associate with in the West with Christianity and the Abrahamic religions.
Yeah.
Not so much Judaism. Um,
Judaism doesn't have concept of heaven.
Judaism doesn't specify heaven or hell. I'm not certain about the details. I'd like to, yeah, refine my knowledge in that department. But I presume, I mean, they still believe in a supernatural dimension, and I assume
Okay.
it includes some
I
sort.
didn't know that. I thought all
I did,
Abrahamic
yeah.
religion.
I thought I had a Jewish housemate back at uni. Well, his mother was Jewish, and he was raised at least partially Jewish and knew a lot about it. And I think he said there was some sort of afterlife. It doesn't take the same form as like this heaven and hell that specifically comes with Christianity and gets carried
Mm.
into Islam.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. I think, yeah, I would imagine this. I think that's, I mean, this is to be for another podcast, but I really think, so religion, I think, serves several main, well, but I think the thing that draws many people to religion, one is this idea of what happens after you die, like coming to terms with your death. I think that's a huge motivation for so many people to become
It
religious.
is if you have the chance of running into like preachers or religious particularly once again the Abrahamic religions, those are the main like proselytizers in the West.
Mm.
You don't encounter it so much in like sects of Hinduism or other religions so much, but or Buddhists. But yeah, the Abrahamic religions. This is very central to like if you will, recruitment.
Mm.
Um, like in the if they set up a stand, they talk like often you will see the question, what happens after we die? Is there life after death?
Yeah.
It's very very central to like I'm selling the belief system of Christianity is that
Mm.
Jesus died for our sins so that we may have eternal life. And it is only through him and his sacrifice that we can have the hope of eternal life. It's very much at the center of Christianity.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
some of
this idea of morality as well that comes in there as well. It's another, problem of evil, or why is there so much suffering in the world, that sort of thing. But anyways, I think I don't want to get into discussion on religion. I think that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, the point is, it's a huge, just something that plagues everyone to some degree, and I think that's what draws people to religion, and is this being plagued by this. And yeah, like you said, neither you nor I prescribe to any religion, and so we think once you die, it's
of
like before
yeah.
we're born, right? It's
Actually, I was going to say it's not merely the explicitly religious who profess a belief in the afterlife. People who ascribe to Christianity or ascribe to Islam or even ascribe to like a sort of notion of reincarnation in Hinduism.
Mhm.
But people sort of have sort of nebulous idea that there is still an afterlife. We can't rule it out.
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, yeah,
After like people who profess to be spiritual, which
yeah, that's
often
true.
gets contaminated with a sort of Hinduism, but or Buddhism. But nonetheless, even people who don't really ascribe to any religious belief still want to sort of believe that it goes on, and there still is sort of desire to, I think, believe in it. Oftentimes, when people they take psychedelics, and people who believe like us believe that um, there is no life after death. Oftentimes, after the psychedelic trip, they say, "Ah, well, now I'm not so sure.
Mm,
Now I think maybe there's a life after death." So, yeah, it's interesting how pervasive it is, our beliefs as a species. Um,
mm.
but nonetheless, neither of us are convinced. We think it's completely, um, very sadly for us, temporary. And what surprises us is that many people, um, they seem to also justify, think in some ways, mortality is positive. This is also a sort of widespread belief.
Yeah.
Uh, Ironically, it's often sort of a mix. The people who say, "Ah, well, maybe there's an afterlife," but they say, "Ah, well, the mortality of life, it has meaning because it's temporary. Nonetheless, we might have this afterlife, and that gives me hope." I think there's a lot of people trying to have it both ways as well. Um, so they want the immortality, but they still want this sort of mortality, which is like, which gives us a sense of scarcity.
Mm,
Scarce resources are things we value more, and
yeah.
so life is scarce and it's going to end. Therefore, that gives it meaning, that gives it value. And people often, they see mortality as kind of a positive thing, or they try to package it in that fashion, um, uh, in a way that doesn't convince me. But both of us are very much opposed to these attempts to kind of say it's a positive thing. I think it's
Yeah. Yeah. I think, oh, just to close the thread, I am in agreement with you that what they call, there's something that, um, I don't know whether it's a distinction before, just reading up a bit about it before this podcast. There's a distinction between immortality and amortality, where amortality is you can live indefinitely, and I think it's a more practical definition, I think. I don't think there's any good reason to believe that if we were to continue scientific progress, that we would eventually find a way to continually extend our lifespans. Um, this is, of course, assuming that we can continue to progress and we don't go back to the dark ages because of some sort of nuclear winter or some other sort of horrific thing that occurs. I think it's more of an engineering problem. There's no law of physics that says you can't live in perpetuity. And I think there's good reasons why. But anyways, but
not in literal
immortality.
perpetuity, right? I mean, there's a heat death of the universe, etc. But for all intents and purposes,
Yeah. So yeah, of course. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, they talk about heat death of the universe. They even talk about like the half-life of a proton. So even subatomic particles will decay and that sort of thing.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. That's so,
yeah,
but
but
it's relevant to us because we only get at most a century,
yeah,
which
yeah,
so pitiably short. That's the
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Just yeah. But the question is, I think this is something, yeah, especially I'm not sure if everyone appreciates this, of like why wouldn't you want to be immortal? I want to give I think if you asked my 5-year-old self, would you like to be immortal? I would have said absolutely, please make me immortal. Um, just some practical advice in case some genie says he can grant you this wish, why you should perhaps think twice about doing this. I think just the idea that you can never die, so we don't know what the conditions are. Like, for example, you're being burned, you still don't die. Um, just the chance of um, some catastrophic event occurring is even a small chance over a long enough period of time it will compound. And the chances that something very catastrophic won't happen is very low. So you can imagine the horrible scenario where you get some guy throws in his dungeon, tortures you or something, and if you can never die, you can never opt out. It's a pretty bad scenario to be in.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I don't think we need to spend too much time um,
Yeah, yeah,
saying,
perhaps.
of
Yeah,
course, it's not desirable to live indefinitely and being tortured, etc. I think we're
yeah,
both agree and a non-cut controversial, almost non-controversial point that we wouldn't want to live
yeah.
endlessly suffering. I do. I should say that I do push it very far myself. I'm very pro-natalism, as you
Mm,
would say, as opposed to anti-natalism. Anti-natalists are people who have the philosophical position that um, life is so full of pain and horrible. Life itself, as we live it today, is full of suffering. We very much overestimate the quality of our lives. And they say, the anti-natalists say, it's better not to be born,
mm,
and against natalism. I very much take the opposite position. I think that existence, I see it as gift. I see it as something very rare. Um,
mm.
Most of the universe does not possess consciousness, does not possess a first person perspective of
Yeah.
reality. And so therefore it's very rare, once again, go playing into the scarcity. And so to me, it makes it very precious. So the amount of suffering you'd have to be in order to forego that, which will happen anyways in a very short amount of time, relatively speaking, um,
Mm,
the amount of suffering you'd have to go to would be very high for me, much higher than it would be for you, I think. Um,
mm.
just because I value consciousness very much so.
Yeah. I think it's
But
only one way to put that. You got to put that to the test and see.
yeah, put that to yeah, yeah, right, right.
We'll hire a local
Yeah,
torturer
yeah.
and see how
In a
long
dungeon,
you can
yeah.
go.
Yeah, God, yeah.
But no.
Um,
Okay, well, let's put that aside. So I think it should be pretty clear to most people that immortality, the possibility of never opting out, is probably not a good idea. None of us really can fathom the concept of infinity. Um, there are many of these interesting thought experiments and things that don't explain how large infinity is and really breaks our intuitions. Um, we have a hard time imagining very large numbers, let alone infinity. So and yeah, just the foreverness and not being able to opt out is a pretty horrible thing. But let's talk about some of the reasons why some people might object to amortality, where you can opt out at any time. Like to me,
yeah,
this is like a no-brainer. Like you have a finite amount of lifetime, you can just extend it indefinitely. And when you want to leave, just leave. But what's the harm in that? So
just yeah, you can end the life when you want. If
yeah.
let's say, after 10,000 years, you're very bored and
Mm,
you've seen every inch of the world, um,
yeah.
and
Because there's only one world to see, right?
it's only one world because we can't travel across planets. There's also the caveat of which I don't think we want to um, go into this too much. I think it's kind of outside of a thought experiment, but there's a slight problem of when too many people had this amortality,
Mm,
and you'd have like this population overflow, and then it would be very hard to have children, have new generations, and then there'd be this old generation which would never die and would
yeah.
kind of be in charge of all the seats of power. These sorts of
Mm,
practical, these sorts of practical considerations also generate big problems for like the practicality of
yeah.
immortality
Yeah, I think
in,
this is yeah,
in
yeah. I think
the current reality in which we live, and that's kind of beyond the scale, beyond the scope of our thought experiment. I think we're kind of assuming, for the sake of our thought experiment, that those considerations um, are somehow taken care of and not worried, not to worry about. I think the main thing that we want to consider is just if you could, given all of that is taken care of,
yeah,
if you could live forever, given that you could leave at any point in time, why
yeah,
wouldn't you?
yeah.
That's what we're
Let
considering.
me just touch briefly because I think this is actually some of the most interesting arguments. Maybe we should do another part of it entirely. But I think this is the strongest case to be made. Like for example, I think this is a more practical scenario where, for example, you have constant medical advancements. Because I think living indefinitely, forgetting the heat death of the universe and all that, like living indefinitely is very much within the realm of human innovation. It's just an engineering problem. And there could come a point where, let's say, several centuries from now, where we have medical procedures that allow you to live forever. Now, society as a whole, everyone can live forever. So why would you not want to do that, right? Some of the societal problems. This is actually something where I can, even though I would still try to find a way to get that done for myself, I can see it becoming a problem for society. There's moral considerations. I think we commit an enormous amount of atrocities, especially towards uh, animals, and there's people, horrible leaders, um, committing massive wars and these sort of things. You will never, presumably, you have these dictators that will never die. You can continue to commit massive atrocities. In terms of ideas, I think there was a famous quote by Max Planck. He said, "New scientific truth does not triumph by convincing its opponents, but rather because its opponents eventually die." Um,
Yeah, yeah, precisely. Yeah,
yeah, so this is like an interesting quote where older people get more and more stubborn. I think Socrates alludes to this in the Apology, written by Plato, where he talks about how like the younger people are more open to new ideas, but the older people are very stubborn. And
yeah.
I'm, yeah,
In terms of psychometrics, this is what I've heard from people who know
mm,
personality psychology.
yeah,
Personality psychologists have boiled down human personality using a process that you know more about called factor analysis. They've determined that
mm,
there's five fundamental variables according to which you can describe
yeah,
human personality. One of them is called trait openness.
mm,
And that is how interested you are in new ideas and aesthetics, so art
oh,
and things like this. And if you're high in trade openness, then you are
yeah,
more interested in those things. If you are low in trade openness, you're less interested in those things. And
oh,
so political differences very much spread across this. Like conservatives, for example, they are much lower in trade openness. They're less
oh,
interested in new ideas and aesthetics.
mm,
People who are progressive or in the States, they would say liberal. Those people tend to be much more interested in new ideas and
mm,
new forms of art, etc.
yeah,
But for people as they age, it has been found that the trait openness goes gradually down. Now, if someone starts really high in trait openness, they're not going to go to the opposite end of the spectrum by the end of their life, but the
mm,
trait openness will decline to a certain extent. And
sure,
so, if you imagine someone who's like maybe in the middle trade openness, just on the average, at the end of their life, they will be less open than average,
yeah.
and therefore more entrenched in in their ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I notice that myself sometimes. As my hairs slowly go grey, I find that
Old men as we are.
I find that a lot of the new music doesn't quite appeal to me. A lot of the new slang, all the words that the youngsters use, I find myself, you know, trying to avoid using such phrases.
Mm.
These people defiling our language. I like to say, but just common
Yeah.
process. Uh,
So, yeah.
but anyhow, yeah. So I think that this is definitely like the population case to be made. Uh, Being bad for society, overpopulation. I think this can be solved by colonizing other planets. The universe is a big place. The solar system is a big place too. Um, there are many
Yeah.
places, habitable moons, planets. Well, not that many planets, but plenty of moons. You can get creative. Um, if you,
Yeah. It wouldn't be as much of a problem. Yeah, the population, if we could spread to other planets, without, an obscene, like a really large amount of resource consumption to get to those planets,
yeah,
you know, that would solve a lot of problems. I think you'd still have this big problem of hierarchy where people who live longer kind of lord over everyone else and don't let
yeah,
the younger generations have any say in how things work. I think that would build up.
yeah.
Um, and that would be a very big problem.
Yeah,
Um,
the sort of inequality gap, right? You have
yeah,
Elon Musk is worth like an exorbitant amount of money. It's like
I
hundreds
think
and he's at close
oh,
to trillionaire, right? Like 800 billion something.
he's like a third of a trillion. I thought he got to like 300 something
Well, let's look that up right now.
billion. No, billion rather. No, I'm misspeaking. Mhm. Look up Elon Musk's net worth. Ah, no, I severely underestimated that. He's almost a
Yeah,
trillionaire.
he's almost a trillionaire, right? What is it again?
Estimated to just around
$780 billion.
800 billion. It's estimated to be over 800 billion.
Over 800. Okay. So, anyways, yeah, it's a ridiculous amount of money. We can have another podcast about wealth inequality. I think you and I have some differences, but I think yeah, the point is you can see that there are certain you can see companies engaging in certain slightly unethical practices when they get wealthy. They have powers that smaller companies don't have, like for example, lobbying the government to institute policies and make it harder for smaller companies to come up and that sort of thing. And you can imagine if you have very, very wealthy people, um, I think it's what what's his name? Adam Smith he called crony capitalism, right? Where it's not real capitalism, where this it's a very corrupt sort of capitalism where you don't it doesn't really allow for new wealth to be generated in a fair way. So this sort of thing could be an issue. You want a society where younger people, you do want a society where young people, and I think here's the thing with amortality, people will die still, right? It's not, you will still have accidents, car accidents, you will still have murders, you will still have things happening where there will be some turnover of people. But you want these,
I mean, you have, of course, like a sort of fantastical description of how this might look. It's very explicitly fantasy, not like it's not even meant to be very realistic fantasy, but it's J.R.R. Tolkien, right?
hmm,
Uh, the author of the Lord of the Rings and of Middle Earth. The elves,
hmm,
right, are immortal, but they still can be killed in a sense. I think the spirits go to like this sort of god. I think it's Manwë. But the
hmm.
point is they can be killed nonetheless. Um, but yeah, he kind of explores into how the elves relate with the immortality, and actually
Oh,
Tolkien himself sort of um, takes this position sort of implicitly that mortality. I think it's somewhere in his writings he described man's man having mortality given mortality by the Valar, who are kind of the gods of Middle Earth. That was
hmm.
actually kind of a gift. That was a gift,
Oh,
and the elves didn't understand why men were so upset at the Valar for making them mortal. Because the men are upset, like, why are these elves? They get to live forever, see all these things, but the elves really don't understand, and they're often quite portrayed quite sad. I think in the movies as well as in his writings in the Silmarillion, they've seen so much suffering over thousands of years.
hmm.
Over that, they've become quite jaded, I think. Um, and so he kind of runs this sort of portrayal. This is often what fantasy does or fictional novels do.
Yeah.
Um, they do like a thought experiment on what certain situations would look like.
I still don't understand how it's a boon. Like if you were so enamored with ending your life, go and do it. Like jump off the cliff. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You have
No, that's
the same options available.
immortality very much like sort of
There's such an asymmetry there, right? Like the man
yeah.
cannot choose to oh, let me just live forever. Let me just jump off a cliff and live forever, or jump up the cliff and live. There's no analogy. Whereas the elves have any time you want, you can opt out. So I never saw the. I think this goes to what people call like the ending of life burden, right? You don't want there's such a burden to end your own life if you're living for so long. When it comes to time you want to end your life, that's
When
such a big deal. I think you said one of your mates were.
Yeah, yeah. So I can't remember specifically which conversation. It's possible to imagine, but I believe I was talking about this with someone. This idea, this thought experiment of if you could live forever, given that you could end the experience at some point at your own will. Why wouldn't you take that? And their objection was that I would never be able to do it, or it'd be so traumatizing to have to do it, um, that I wouldn't want that responsibility, that weight on my own shoulders. There's this notion. I think there was a sort of desire for sort of fatalism. I think in this person I was talking with, and I doubt they can't be the only one. Well, you want the responsibility to be kind of taken off your own shoulders.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, I know we don't want to talk too much about religion, but I think there's kind of a frequent sort of I think religion sort of takes care of this quite often for us, where like on morality, we don't want to have to decide what good and evil is. It's kind of too much, and it seems kind of subjective. So you kind of bestow that on like a higher power. I think this was sort of a similar impulse. I don't want to have to take care of how long my life will be when I
Hmm.
go. That's too much. It needs to just be kind of this higher power that takes care of it, the sort of the universe.
Hmm.
Yeah, once again, not convinced. Um, uh, and the reason why I'm so unconvinced we are is because we now know scientifically how long reality goes on, regardless of our lives. How long the universe has been around, and how long it will continue to exist,
Yeah.
millions, millions of years, and we only get a century. And so it's so pitiably small. It's not like we even get 3 million years, which is still tiny in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of the universe. It's like no, we get a century.
Yeah. But I
50,000 years is pitiable. So like this is just a complete mismatch of scale.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and you know, it's just yeah, it's it's just
I would
such an
never be
easy
satisfied. Any finite number is unsatisfactory.
any finite numbers, yeah, is unsatisfactory. Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
though. This is so funny. I remember there was an episode. I'm a much bigger TV sort of cinephile, I suppose you can call it. There's a show, Futurama, really good,
Mm,
interesting show. I can talk for days about the episodes. I think there were some episodes that are just brilliant. Some episodes just like a normal sitcom. But one of the characters is this robot with quite a personality. He's kind of the main character of that show. And this is it's episode. It's called Lethal Inspection. So basically, what happens? And yeah, by the way, spoiler. Maybe skip the next couple of minutes if you don't want to hear the spoiler for this episode. But what what becomes found out that so all the robots have a sort of backup drive, so they have their memories and everything stored in the cloud. So if they somehow physically die, they can be re-uploaded into some other robot, and they can live in perpetuity. They can technically live forever. Whereas this robot, there was some sort of like fault in the manufacturing process, and they find out that he actually they say you're not immortal. You're not technically like you're not immortal. Your lifespan is anywhere between zero. You can either die, any today until your maximum lifespan is 10 billion years, 10 billion with the B. And Bender is just he goes crazy. He's like, oh my god, no! He goes on a drinking bender. He just completely loses it. And it's sort of it's framed as a sort of funny, it's a very silly thing. Like, oh, he's got fucking forever. Like us humans have measly 100 years at most. This guy's got 10 billion years, and he's losing it all. But in some ways, um, 10 billion years is not that much. If you know, 9 billion, 900 million, 900,000, 990 years later, you have only that many years left, right? Like at some point, you only have 1 year left, right? And so, um, it's sort of empathize for him in a strange way. It's still not enough. And
No,
um,
it's no, no. Once you receive the end, once you get to
yeah,
the end, chances are you're going to want more.
yeah,
Um, Listening to longevity podcasters, influencers
mm,
who talk about how to, have the longest health span, the highest
yeah,
quality of life for as long as possible.
mm,
Uh, there's many influencers, podcasters who talk about this these days, whether or not it's Peter Attia or Rhonda Patrick or different people, but they often talk about how when people are younger, they kind of they don't think of it. They don't think of how they're going to live in the last decade. They don't even really, they kind of have an indifference to whether or not they'll live 90 or 95 often.
mm,
But what they bring up is, once you're at 95, you're not going to want to check out unless your health span is very much declined. You're probably
mm,
going to want to live another year, another 5 years. Once
yeah,
you get there, you will like you don't want it to end usually,
mm,
given you have things to live for, which we haven't gone into as much. I'd like to go into that a bit. Is like, why do we want to live 10,000 years? Why would we want to live like 10 million years? What do
mm.
we have to live for? Um,
I could see so many.
Easy answers for us, like easy answers for me. There's
Yeah,
so many things I would like to do that I can't do because there's an opportunity cost,
yeah,
because time is already taken up by things I'm already into.
yeah,
Uh, I can't. I can't become like I can't learn the flute to
mm,
like a virtuoso level because I already play the piano and the violin and I need to practice those.
yeah,
And so that comes at the opportunity cost of playing the flute, which I think is a very beautiful instrument. I think it's so like unbelievably beautiful. I dreamed of playing it as a child, but also dream of being really good at the piano and violin. So it's just an opportunity cost. And there's just so many things. There's just an indefinite amount, a list of things that I wish I could pursue that I can't pursue because of our mortality. Um, so
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Are we on time, by the way?
yeah, we only have a couple minutes.
Couple minutes before.
2 minutes.
Um, yeah, no, there's so much to say here. I want to end on this note, yeah, about this. Why? Because I think I want to have yeah, I think that's a very powerful motivation. Because I'm sure there's people, if there's anyone ends up watching this episode, there'll be people sneering at the idea that 10 million years and just still not satisfied. That's I'm sure people sort of sneer at that idea. I've noticed that
It is
there's
it is much harder to wrap our minds around what a life that long would look like.
yeah,
Like we talk about this, but it's really sort of just the end of like a sort of mathematical formulation,
hmm,
quasi-mathematical formulation of like, okay, here's all the information that exists in the world.
yeah,
It's indefinitely increasing. Therefore, the amount of time I would need is,
yeah,
indefinite. Um,
yeah,
and we like absorbing information. We are very high in trade openness, I think, both of us.
mhm,
We're
yeah,
very interested in acquiring new ideas. Like I'd love to spend more time actually getting good at mathematics, and I miss the feeling of solving a mathematical formula or a mathematical equation on a new
yeah,
formula. It was so exhilarating to be trying to solve an equation.
mm,
But now I took the direction more in the direction of letters, and therefore it's an opportunity cost. But
yeah. There's only so many things you can study to find out about a time. So much
yeah,
physics I would like to learn.
exactly.
Yeah, so much other things.
And that's just studying. That's
Yeah,
not like that's not traveling, seeing new places, seeing new countries,
yeah.
exploring beautiful places. Meeting new people, spending time with new people.
So this sort of reminds me actually of an episode um, in the podcast by Sean Carroll called the Mindscape podcast. And if you guys haven't listened, to his podcast. I recommend everyone listen to his podcast. It was the Christmas message of 2023, and he talked about sort of conference he went to where the other scientists were asked if you were given the choice or the ability to live for 10,000 years in being youthful, not like you get old and continue to become very geriatric and uh, you know senile and all that. Like you stay in your youth, perfectly healthy for 10,000 years. Would you take it? And he said, to his surprise, the overwhelming majority of people said no. And it was surprising to me. He luckily I was to my I had a bit more respect for him when he said that he was surprised by that. He said, "Yeah, I would, yeah, obviously all for that. I would totally take that." And he said, "Yeah, he also said similar things like there's so much things I would like to do, and I feel such a lack of time to do so many things I want to do. I would take 10,000 years in a heartbeat." And obviously, even 10,000 years is an unfathomably long period of time. To think about it this way, right? A very optimistic lifespan for a person is 100 years. So imagine for every year of your life, it's 100 years, right? That's what a 10,000, it's 100 squared. So instead of for every year, you live a full century and you have another full century. So it's 100 lifetimes you're living. It's a lifetime of lifetimes, really, right? And it's an actually, even just 10,000 is an unfathomably long period of time. So I can see something, but yeah, I mean, yeah, but anyways, the point is there's so much to learn, so much to do. And people talk about this getting bored thing. I'm always worried about getting tortured and this. And don't get me wrong, there's times you get in a very sort of bad mental state and things don't excite you. Like depression is one of those things that's very scary where nothing really excites you and that sort of thing. And being in that state of mind forever can be scary. But if you're in a healthy state of mind, I just don't see. I see just it's just such an utter lack of imagination. To think like this is what just surprises me. It's not just how much there is to see, how much there is to do. Like there's actually many ways to think about this. Two very big threads I can take. Imagine this is a very interesting thought experiment. Imagine, right? Let's say you went back 100,000 years, and you went to a person and asked them, "Hey, would you want to live forever, or would you want to live for 100,000 years?" I can see this both ways. Like you can see this person being like, God, like just let it end. Like fucking every day, wake up, go running barefoot, hunting, or like wearing the shitty shoes, hunting animals, like doing this day after day. Like there's not like it's crazy, right? To think that's like Homo sapiens. I think they say you can take a person from about 100,000, 150,000 years ago, you plop him in today, you would not recognize this person as being from 100,000. It's not necessarily noticeable. They're pretty much they'll blend right in, right? And so the same modern humans, we lived just as hunter-gatherers for like 100,000 years, more than that. And for the most part, like human civilization was not that different. There was no civilizations and none of this like Bronze Age and like real progress occurred once we became agricultural and we had cities were forming and that sort of thing. So for a long period of time, just so little change. Society was so similar. Humans were just was not were not that much different than any other. We were part of the food chain in some sense. Not exactly. We were still kind of at the top, but the society was so different back then, and it was so little progress. You can kind of, but imagine if this guy said no, right? This guy's like, oh fuck, man, I've seen it all. Like, imagine you're like some person in, uh, the savannas of Africa, or you're in the deserts of, Australia. Maybe not 100,000 years. I think humans came there like 40, 50,000 years ago. But you just imagine it's like fuck, I've seen it all. Like it's all just desert. Like this is all I know. Like this is so boring. But if this guy actually, you know, duked it out for that 50,000 years and explored his country, like he would have actually seen something amazing, right? Like the progress, like society went from being this very hunter-gatherer society to agricultural societies. Now you can fly. Like there's just a massive amount of change that occurred in such a short,
Very slowly. You will see it very slowly because these changes
very
happen
slow.
very
Yeah,
slowly. That's the
very,
thing
very
about
slowly. And then,
societies.
huh?
They, the ancient societies, they seem, I think it's fair to say they were moving very slowly. Ancient Egypt was just,
But that's but it's this ancient Egypt is already like a society, right? Like if you just like for 100,000 years we were just hunter-gatherers. Like nothing changed. Like we were just like doing the same shit, like just
yeah,
making
hunter-gatherer, even slower. Yeah.
yeah, even slower, right? There's like pretty much no fucking progress. And I can see in some sense that there's no that this person might not be interested in it, but like the point I'm making with this is like here we are, we're talking about, oh, there's so much to learn, so much physics to read, so much literature, so many places to explore. The world, like the universe, the world in our eyes is so much more vast than the
Yeah.
world of this hunter-gatherer. Like this guy could not have imagined the things we we have available to us.
No,
And
I
in
mean the cosmology is completely different.
completely different. Like I
Yeah.
don't. Did he understand? Like, I don't think this person had any idea of how vast the planet is, right? Like, his world is so small, right?
No, of course. No. Yeah, not even the faintest clue.
Not even the faintest clue, right? And just how much there is to learn about the world, like the fact that you can do so much things, how much physics has advanced, the things we can do. We can talk to people across the world in an instant. I'm here in Bangkok, you're in California, like we're talking as if we're right next to each other. Um, just look around you, just turn around. Like all the things we have in our world today, like a hunter-gatherer wouldn't understand what is this material here? What is this material? What tree does your laptop screen grow on? What is going on? Like it's just so unfathomably different. And the point I'm making is just imagine how unfathomably different the world will be another 10,000 years from today, right? Like it's just mind-boggling, and there's so much we don't understand about the world. So there's of course the physical realm, but there's also like something that we're very um, archaic in our understanding is consciousness and the the different states of mind that we have and what kinds of mental states we have access to, right? So we talk about boredom, right? There's a certain set of emotional states, and there's some set of emotional states that we have. I think we have, I would say, a much more advanced set of phenomenological states than other animals, right? There's so many different complex emotions and ideas and things that we yeah, our mental states are much more complex, right? But imagine something that I think many people don't think about is if you can actually understand the conscious realm better, what if we could have access to different kinds of conscious states, right? Like there is, for example, like I enjoy mathematics and learning. There's a certain sense, there's a certain qualitative experience of learning something, right? There's a certain sort of qualitative experience of, I think here's another example, right? I think this is a good example. So when I was younger, right, um, I was 6 or 7, most children don't understand. At least I never understood what was the big deal with like people falling in love and being attracted to the opposite sex. Like this sort of the sexuality realm is sort of absent in the child, right? And you go through puberty and there's this completely new dimension of phenomenological states that you have access to, right? People spend so much time obsessing over, you know,
Great to a great extent. I don't think it's completely evaporated and non-existent in childhood. I think some of Freud's insights kind of give a lens into that. But yeah, largely, yeah, definitely your perception changes as an adolescent. And
yeah. I mean, whatever extent it's there, it's nowhere near like, you know,
yeah,
what
those
a
changes
yeah,
essentially.
it's a huge change, right? And so you have it's just the reason I bring this up is it's an example of a sort of subjective dimension that we didn't have access. We can remember a time where this subjective dimension was not a part of our lives. And now there we have a sort of different, and it's interesting because it's not just about um it's not merely the physical pleasure of having sex, but it's the meeting another person, connecting with them. There's a challenge that's involved in that, and there's an interesting dimension of getting to know another person and connecting with them, and always having sex and forming a relationship. There's all this sort of this entire different like what's the word like dimension of possibilities you can have by exploring this realm, right? This romantic realm. Um, Imagine, let's say, hundreds of years from now, we can craft different kinds of emotional realms that we can't even imagine today, right? What if there was a different sort of thing like another sort of thing where it's do you understand what I'm saying? It's very hard to explain because there's no real words.
How about a new domain of emotion and experience
Yeah,
that we
carve out a new domain of new
I think
dimension.
this is what partially what people try to do with psychedelics is like
Yeah,
expand your perspective, this sort of thing. It's like opening up this new
exactly.
um
Drugs do that. Yeah, drugs are very yeah,
you're talking on an emotional level per se, but
phenomenological.
yeah, phenomenological relating to experience.
Yeah.
Actually, this is a conversation we'll have in more detail in the future, but it's partially why I like studying languages other than English because I feel the more I understand them, it's a new world that is that opened up to me. What sounded like gibberish is now
Mhm.
a whole new vast world of like experience
Mhm.
available to me
Yeah.
because that's what language is. It's people communicating or expressing their experiences. So yeah, um, yeah. I mean, it's frankly it's difficult. When we talk about a lack of imagination. I suppose the limits of my imagination are kind of. It's hard for me to imagine like a new like emotional state. Um,
No. I'm not saying no. The
on par
fact
with
that
sexuality, which is like profoundly ingrained in our like existences. Um, as creatures who sexually reproduce, and that process is, whatever, a billion years old or whatever. So it's very, very much innate and will never go away. But
yeah.
nonetheless, point taken. I suppose we could.
No, the point is like it's just
Point.
the point is not. I'm not asking because I can't imagine a phenomenological state that I've never had. But the point I'm making is that um this like yeah I know I didn't make this point very clearly, but what I was trying to say is you can imagine the amount of things that we can do today compared to what a hunter gatherer could do is just the amount of things we can do is enormously vast. There's so many more things we could do, but our hardware is the same. Do you understand? Like the hardware, like the amount of phenomenological like experiences the Neolithic or the hunter gatherer person could have is the same as we can have today. We can't experience different subjective emotional states that the caveman couldn't. Right? We both have the same hardware. We just have a different. We're just operating in a different world.
The same organs, etc. I mean,
So
yes.
same like what if we can actually
You
understand the
always have yeah. I mean, what if you could add a new sensory faculty, for example?
yeah
Like
new sensory faculty?
sharks
There's
apparently
so much
they
more
can
we could
sense
do here.
electricity. They can
Yeah.
sense electricity in the ocean, things like this. Like, what if we could add that? I mean, I think the point of this whole, we're just imagining things you could do with your time, right? Over this amortal life that we would like to have, correct?
Yeah. There's so much you could explore that you couldn't possibly imagine. The same way the hunter-gatherer could not possibly imagine what you could do with another 100 years. It's like fuck, I do the same thing every single day. Like it's just I've lived like 80 years. I can imagine being a hunter-gatherer. It's like look, like I've seen it all. Like imagine you're like a hunter-gatherer in the outback of Australia, right? You walk around, it all looks the same. It's this fucking desert. Um, you're hunting kangaroos. I don't want to stare at what you can imagine your world just being like this sort of monotonous thing. You have fun, but it's like
Yeah, wherever
I've
you
seen it
are,
all, right?
step
This person has
5 years
not seen the
or
fucking,
whatever it is.
you
Yeah.
know, he's not ever seen any snow. Like he doesn't understand that just the landscape. If he could just have teleported different places, like, oh my God, how vast the world is, how many different hunter-gatherer societies there are, and then many years from now, how many different things we could do, how many things we can learn about the world. Like, we don't need to use religion to understand the world and all these spirits. There's a completely different way of understanding the world. Like, how different our world is today from then. Like, how unfathomably different it is. Like, he could not have dreamt. Like, these all these mythical stories are not nearly as fantastical as our lives are today. But in the same way, what will our lives look like if society can progress another 10,000 years from now? All the things we could learn, all the things we could do. Imagine meeting a different species of a different like alien life form, right? Like things these guys can teach us about consciousness. They what if they probably have a completely different set of phenomenological experiences. They probably have conscious states that we don't have access to at all. We can never properly communicate unless we understand the conscious realm in a different way. What if I could connect my brain directly to yours, interface with yours in a way that we just can't do today? Like there's so many more things we have to explore, so many things we could do. Imagine now, like millions of years from now, we have humans now living in different planets and they have completely different cultures because they're like completely different planet. You know, there might even be different species. Like there's so much like such a vast amount of possibilities. And just people say, "Oh, I get bored. I'll get bored." Like, what a lack of imagination! I get so just I'm so disappointed when people say that. It's like, have you not been to the library before? Like, you tell me you're getting bored, and you can't just
Yeah.
imagine. They never ever imagine any of these things. Like, just think back to like 100,000 years ago, how different our life
Yeah.
is today. Like, just the lack of imagination. It just
I like it.
it's so disappointing to me, and
It's very
it's so
difficult to.
frustrating. You know,
Yeah.
um,
Um,
it yeah. How daft can he be? You know. Anyways,
Tough can be.
just such a lack of imagination. Um,
Yeah,
such a lack.
it's very difficult to for me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
um,
And I never heard anyone talk about like yeah the possibility of different conscious because it's this really interesting thing. Like, it's not just like injecting heroin. It's not like oh I feel happy. It's a very complex. Like for example, like just like dating, right? It's not just like you go. It's not just like the mere physical act of having sex. It's like going. You can't have sex with anyone you want, right? You can't have a relationship with anyone. There's a sort of like it's sort of like a game, and people don't like to think of it as a sort of. But there's certain things. There's certain challenges that you have to overcome. You have to grow in certain ways to meet different people. Like there's it's not like it's not something like it's not just like injecting heroin you get a certain like phenomenological state, right? There's a sort of like it's a much more complicated thing that I think it's very hard for me to articulate really, but it's not a very simple thing. You can imagine even I'm sure a great writer can write about like a person who engineers different sort of phenomenological emotions, like the dating realm, there's some other conscious realm that you can explore or something. The point is just that there's so much things we could potentially explore that we could never even dream to imagine. So yeah, that's basically what I have to say about that. People being reluctant to live forever. Just just close your eyes and imagine, before you say something like that. But, yeah. Anyways, I think we both feel the same way. It's preaching to the choir here.
um
We should have brought a very square
you feel
person who
absolutely.
has the opposite opinion, so we could have
Yeah,
actually
that'd be good to get
would have been a
some.
much more productive. So maybe next time we'll do that. We'll find
If
someone
you think we
who
can articulate more on kind of Steelman more the other side, I think we already did to a certain extent regarding like the practicality of a world of immortals, but in terms of
yeah
the counter arguments, apart from that,
yeah.
we covered.
Perhaps we'll explore another time. I know you're in a rush, so we will end this here. And for all those who are watching, see you next time.
For the next.
Cheers.